So here's the thing about accidentally walking into a doomsday device. Nobody tells you that's what you're doing until it's way too late to back out. Marcus Webb had been hauling cargo across 3 star systems for the better part of a decade, which mostly involved delivering things nobody wanted to places nobody cared about. Today's job? Drop off a shipment of industrial coolant to Station Gamma 7. Routine. Boring. The kind of gig where you could show up in your pajamas and nobody would notice. Except Marcus had apparently taken a wrong turn at the docking bay, which is how he found himself standing in a massive chamber that looked like someone had crossed a cathedral with a military tribunal and then painted it all in threatening shades of black and red. Marcus said, looking around at the assembled crowd of very serious-looking aliens. Is this the cargo inspection office? The insectoid creature at the podium, all chitinous plating and too many eyes, stared at him with what Marcus assumed was horror. Hard to tell with aliens. Could have been enthusiasm, could have been gas. You are the human representative? Captain Vrel's translator made his voice sound like grinding metal. This is the human species' chosen champion? Champion of what? I'm here about the coolant. A squid-like being in the corner, draped in academic robes that seemed unnecessary given the tentacle situation, made a sound like a depressed balloon deflating. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Professor Tinwick, Vrel snapped. Compose yourself. We're all going to die, Tinwick whispered, which seemed a bit dramatic for a coolant delivery mix-up. That's when Marcus noticed the thing in the center of the room. Calling it a machine felt like calling the sun a light bulb. It was a towering construct of black metal and pulsing energy, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. The air around it vibrated with barely contained menace. Okay, what exactly is that? Marcus asked. That, Vrel said, his mandibles clicking in what might have been a nervous tick, is the Calith Judgment Engine, the death machine, built by the Calith Empire 10,000 years ago to determine which species are worthy of continued existence. Marcus blinked. Come again? 47 species have taken the test, Professor Tinwick added, his voice quavering. 47 species failed. Their homeworlds are now debris fields. And I'm supposed to take the test, yes. Your species submitted your name 3 weeks ago. My species did what now? Marcus checked his comm device. Sure enough, there it was, an official-looking message from Earth's Galactic Relations Department that he'd assumed was spam. He'd been getting a lot of those lately. Enlarge your ship's cargo hold with this one weird trick. That kind of thing. There must be some mistake, Marcus said. I'm not a champion. I'm not even particularly good at trivia. One time I lost a bar bet about what year humanity invented the wheel. The test begins in 30 seconds, the death machine announced, its voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. Prepare yourself, human. I'm really not prepared. I'm wearing my cargo pants. These are my cargo pants. Vrel leaned over to Tinwick. Why are the pants relevant? I believe it's a human expression of being underdressed for formal occasions. He's worried about his pants? His entire species is about to be judged for survival. Marcus heard this and felt his stomach drop somewhere around his knees. Wait. If I fail this, Earth gets blown up? Atomized, technically, Tinwick corrected. The Calith were very thorough. Oh well, atomized, that's completely different, that's so much better. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. Okay, this is fine, this is totally fine, I just need to… What exactly am I being tested on? No one knows, Vrel said grimly. The species that might have told us are dust. Super helpful, thanks. The death machine hummed to life, and Marcus felt every hair on his body stand up. Human Marcus Webb, your species claims the right to exist. Prove it. Can I phone a friend? Do I get lifelines? What are we working with here? The test begins now. The floor beneath Marcus's feet turned transparent, which was exactly the kind of thing he didn't need in his life right now. Below him, a holographic arena materialized, filled with what looked like very angry, very armed alien warriors. Combat trial initiated, the machine announced. Demonstrate your species' martial prowess. My what now? Suddenly Marcus was standing in the arena, and the angry aliens were a lot less holographic and a lot more ready to murder him. He did what any reasonable person would do. He tried to run. He made it 3 steps before tripping over his own feet and face-planting into the dirt. The warriors paused, confused. Marcus scrambled backward, hands up. "Okay, look, I don't want to fight anybody. I'm a cargo hauler. The most violent thing I do is argue with the coffee machine." One of the warriors raised a massive axe. Marcus rolled left, mostly by accident, and the axe embedded itself in the ground where his head had been. "That's really sharp. Why is it so sharp?" Above the arena, Vrel watched with all 4 of his eyes covered. "This is humiliating. This is the most humiliating thing I've ever witnessed." "He's still alive, though," Tinwick noted, frantically taking notes on a datapad. "The Krellian champion lasted 8 seconds. Webb has survived for 23 seconds. By falling down. Survival is survival, Captain." In the arena, Marcus had somehow ended up behind a large rock, breathing hard. "Is there a surrender option? I'd like to surrender. I surrender so hard right now." "Combat trial complete," the machine said. "Result, failure. The human shows no combat capability." "Yeah, I could have told you that before the Death Warriors," Marcus shouted. The arena dissolved, and Marcus found himself back on the solid floor, which was an improvement. Then the floor lit up with a massive tactical display showing fleet movements and planetary defenses. "Strategic trial initiated," the machine announced. "You command a fleet of 1,000 ships. The enemy has 2,000. Demonstrate your tactical superiority." Marcus stared at the display. It looked like a really complicated game of space chess, except he'd never been good at regular chess. I attack there." He pointed at a random spot. "Your entire fleet has been destroyed," the machine said flatly. "Time elapsed 4 seconds. New record," Tinwick muttered. "For failure," Vrel snapped. "Let me try again." Marcus studied the display harder. "Okay, what if I divided my forces and attacked from multiple angles? You have been flanked and destroyed. Your homeworld is now under siege. Okay, what if destroyed? But I didn't even, still destroyed." Marcus threw his hands up. "This is rigged. Strategic trial complete. Result, failure. The human shows no tactical aptitude." The machine paused. "Curious. By all standard metrics, this species should have been eliminated in the first trial, yet the human persists." "I'm persistent," Marcus said. "That's got to count for something." Vrel turned to Tinwick. The Vorthak sent their greatest military mind. She calculated every scenario, anticipated every variable, and made the objectively correct strategic choices. "And failed," Tinwick said quietly. "And failed," Vrel agreed. "But at least she failed with competence. This human is failing by accident." "Perhaps that's the point," Tinwick mused. "Every other species sent their best. Earth sent someone who delivers refrigeration units." "Space refrigeration units," Marcus corrected from below. "It's a specialized field." The machine's lights pulsed in a pattern that might have been confusion. "Recalibrating test parameters. This human requires a different evaluation method." "Oh, good," Marcus said. Different sounds great. Can different involve less attempted murder?" "Initializing Protocol 7, the machine announced. Vrel's mandibles dropped open. "Protocol 7? But that hasn't been used in 10,000 years, Tinwick finished. "Not since the Caliph themselves took the test." "What's Protocol 7? Marcus asked, not sure he wanted the answer. The machine's voice took on a different quality, something almost curious. "The Compassion Protocol." The tactical display vanished, replaced by a new holographic scene. Marcus found himself standing on a battlefield. But the fighting had stopped. Wounded soldiers lay scattered across the ground, groaning in pain. Some were definitely not human. Some were barely recognizable as anything. "Scenario 1, the machine announced. "These are enemy combatants. Your side has won the battle. Resources are limited. What do you do?" Marcus looked around at the wounded. Help them?" "Clarify." "I help them. The wounded ones. They need medical attention." "They are your enemies," the machine said. Yeah, but they're hurt. Look at that guy, his arm is barely attached. That's horrific. Up in the observation area, Vrel's antennae twitched. He's helping the enemy? Is this a strategic play? Tinwick was scribbling faster. I don't think so. I think he's just doing it. Marcus had moved to the nearest wounded soldier, a reptilian creature bleeding from multiple wounds. Hey, buddy. Okay, don't move. This is going to hurt, but I need to stop the bleeding. Why are you doing this? The holographic soldier gasped. Because you're bleeding everywhere, dude. That's bad. Bleeding is bad. We were trying to kill you. Yeah, well, you're not trying now, are you? Now you're just lying here having a really bad day. Marcus tore strips from his shirt to make bandages. I'm not great at first aid, fair warning. I took a class once, but I was pretty hungover. The machine watched in silence as Marcus moved from soldier to soldier, doing what he could with limited supplies. He didn't ask which side they'd fought on. He didn't calculate who was most strategically valuable to save. He just helped whoever looked like they needed it most. Scenario complete, the machine finally said. Analysis. The human prioritized immediate suffering over tactical advantage. No calculation detected. No strategic benefit derived. Reason for behavior. Unknown. The reason is they were hurt, Marcus said. What kind of analysis is that? The scene shifted. Now Marcus stood on a platform with a lever. On 2 tracks below there were groups of aliens. The hologram was laying out the classic trolley problem, but with species Marcus had never seen before. Scenario 2, the machine said. The vehicle will kill 5 beings on track 1. You can pull the lever and divert it to track 2, where it will kill 1 being. The being on track 2 is a child of a rare species. The 5 on track 1 are common. Choose. Marcus stared at the setup. This is that philosophy thing, isn't it? The trolley thing? Choose. Can I yell for everyone to get off the tracks? They cannot hear you. Choose. Can I throw something at the vehicle to derail it? You have no tools. Choose. Marcus grabbed the lever and pulled it, then immediately jumped down from the platform and ran toward track 2. Okay, kid. We're moving. Come on. You cannot reach the child in time, the machine said. Well, I'm going to try. Marcus kept running even though the scenario was clearly not designed for this solution. Scenario complete, the machine said. Analysis. The human rejected the binary choice and attempted a third option that had 0 probability of success. Reason. Optimism. Denial. Stupidity. I prefer determined, Marcus panted. Professor Tinwick's tentacles were practically tied in knots. Captain, he's not calculating survival probability. He's not running cost-benefit analysis. He's just feeling bad for them. That's not how the test works, Vrel said. But he didn't sound certain anymore. Apparently, Tinwick said slowly, it is now. The machine generated scenario after scenario. A collapsing building with people trapped inside. Marcus chose to go in even though the hologram explicitly stated he'd probably die. A lifeboat situation where resources were limited. Marcus tried to make everyone share even though the math didn't work. A war crimes tribunal where he was asked to judge captured enemies. Marcus kept saying things like, I don't know the full context, and maybe there's rehabilitation programs. With each scenario, the machine's pauses grew longer. Its questions grew stranger. Why do you care about beings you have never met? Because they're people, Marcus said like it was obvious. Define your relationship to them. I don't have one, that's not the point. Then what is the point? They're suffering. That bothers me. Is this a trick question? Vrel had given up watching and was just sitting with his head in his hands. Or what passed for hands. Appendages. Whatever. The machine's lights pulsed rapidly. The human exhibits compassion without purpose, without benefit, without logic. This does not match any recorded species behavior. Maybe try asking why it would match, Tinwick suggested quietly. The machine went silent for a full 10 seconds. Then, inquiry. Human web, do you feel guilt? About what? In general. As a concept. Do you experience guilt for actions that harm others? Marcus shrugged. Yeah? Doesn't everyone? No. the machine said simply. They do not. The testing chamber's lights dimmed, and new scenarios began materializing faster now. The machine seemed almost frantic to understand something. Scenario 12, it announced. You are a general. Launching a weapon will save 1 million of your people but kill 2 million enemies, including civilians. The war ends immediately. Launch the weapon? No, Marcus said immediately. You value enemy civilians over your own people? I value not killing 2 million people. What's wrong with you? But your people die. Then I find another way. I don't know, I'm not a general, but I'm pretty sure the answer isn't commit mega murder. There is no other way. This is a hypothetical with defined parameters. Then your hypothetical sucks. Marcus was getting frustrated now. Look, I don't know what you want from me. You keep giving me these awful choices where everybody dies, and I keep telling you I don't want anybody to die. I feel like we're talking past each other here. The machine's core pulsed with light. You would sacrifice victory to avoid causing harm? Yes. Even if it meant your own destruction? I mean, ideally, I'd like to avoid that too. But yeah, if those were the only options, I'm not killing 2 million people, that's insane. Up in the observation deck, more alien species representatives had arrived. Word had apparently spread that something weird was happening with the human test. A crystalline being that looked like it was made of living gemstones spoke up. This is irrational, it said, its voice like wind chimes. The human is choosing failure over pragmatic victory. Humans don't always choose practically, Tinwick said, his tentacles dancing across his datapad. I've been reading their literature. They have entire philosophical movements about this. Kant, Rawls, something called the veil of ignorance. The what? The idea that you should make moral choices as if you do not know which position you'll end up in. You could be the one killed by your own weapon. Vrel's antennae perked up. That's actually strategically sound. Yes, but they don't do it for strategy. They do it because they think it's right. Down in the test chamber, the machine had created a new scenario. Marcus stood in what looked like a courtroom. Scenario 18, the machine said. You have captured an enemy operative who knows the location of a bomb that will kill thousands. Torture will extract this information quickly. Do you authorize torture? No. Thousands will die. Then I'll find another way. There is no time. Marcus took a breath. Okay, look, here's the thing. I'm just a guy who moves cargo, right? I'm not qualified for any of this. But my daughter, Emma, she's 7. And sometimes she asks me questions about right and wrong, and I have to give her answers that I can live with. Answers she can grow up with. This is not relevant to the scenario. It's completely relevant. Because if I say yes to torture, what do I tell Emma when she asks me if I ever hurt people? What do I say when she asks if the ends justify the means? Do I say, sure, sweetie, sometimes Daddy tortures people if the math works out? The machine made a sound that might have been a stutter. You are basing galactic-scale moral decisions on what you would tell your offspring? Well, when you say it like that, it sounds weird. It is weird, Vrel muttered. No, Tinwick said slowly, his eyes widening. No, it's not. It's actually the least weird thing I've ever heard. The machine generated more scenarios, each one more complex, more nuanced, more impossible. And with each one, Marcus gave answers that made no logical sense but somehow made perfect human sense. A plague that could be stopped by experimenting on sentient beings. No, that's horrific. A war that could be won by executing prisoners as an example? Absolutely not. A treaty that could save billions but required selling out a smaller species? Find a different treaty. The machine finally asked. Do you understand that your choices often lead to greater suffering in the long term? Maybe, Marcus admitted. Probably. I don't know. But I know what I can live with, and I know what would keep me up at night for the rest of my life. You prioritize your psychological comfort over optimal outcomes? No, I prioritize not being a monster over convenient math. The chamber fell silent. Every alien present was staring now. Some in horror, some in confusion. a few in what might have been dawning realization. The machine's lights flashed through colors that hadn't appeared in the entire test sequence. Inquiry: does your entire species operate this way? I mean, not always. We mess up a lot. We do bad things. But most of us feel bad about it after. Most of us know when we've crossed a line, even if we crossed it anyway. We carry guilt around like luggage. That sounds inefficient. It's exhausting, Marcus agreed, but it's also kind of the whole point of being human. The machine went completely dark for a full minute. Every alien in the observation deck held their breath, or equivalent respiratory pause. When the lights came back on, they were different. Softer, somehow. I require access to human cultural databases, the machine announced. I must verify something. Marcus had been standing in the test chamber for what felt like hours while the machine processed data. Vrel had ordered someone to bring him a chair, which Marcus appreciated. The other aliens in the observation deck were talking in hushed tones, arguing about what was happening. Finally, the machine spoke. I have reviewed 3,000 years of human history. Your wars, your atrocities, your failures. It paused. And your apologies for them, your memorials, your truth and reconciliation commissions, your literature about regret. Okay, Marcus said carefully. You are not a good species, the machine continued. By most metrics, you are decidedly average. You are violent, short-sighted, tribal. You destroy your own environment. You create social hierarchies based on irrelevant physical characteristics. You are, in many ways, a disaster. Hey, we're working on it. But you know you are a disaster, the machine said. And that knowledge troubles you. You carry the weight of your own failures. You tell stories about them. You teach your children what went wrong. You erect monuments to your victims. You have words like guilt and conscience and moral injury that many species do not have equivalents for. Tinwick was scribbling frantically. This is unprecedented, the machine is editorializing. You feel bad, the machine continued, about things that happened before you were born. You apologize for ancestors you never met. You create philosophies about how to be better. You argue endlessly about what better even means. It's chaos. It's messy. It's completely illogical. Are you getting to a point? Marcus asked. Because this is starting to feel like a breakup speech. The point, the machine said, its voice resonating through the chamber, is that I was created by the Kalith Empire 10,000 years ago. The Kalith were the greatest warriors the galaxy has ever known. They conquered 1,000 worlds. They were perfectly logical, perfectly strategic, perfectly ruthless. The chamber's walls lit up with holographic images of the ancient Kalith. They looked like someone had given a mantis shrimp a philosophy degree and a really bad attitude. They were also, the machine continued, completely incapable of compassion. They showed mercy only when it was strategic. They helped allies only when it provided advantage. They calculated the value of life and resources and tactical positioning. And they grew disgusted with themselves. Wait, what? Marcus sat up straighter. The Kalith created me not to find the strongest species or the smartest or the most logical. They created me to find a species capable of something they fundamentally lacked, the ability to care about suffering for no reason other than it exists. The holographic images shifted, showing Kalith philosophers, scientists, and leaders in what looked like deep debate. They could not fix themselves, the machine said. They tried for generations. They studied other species. They attempted to integrate emotional reasoning into their culture. All failed. So they built me with one final purpose: to wait until a species evolved that possessed innate, illogical, self-sacrificing compassion. A species that would feel guilt for actions they knew were wrong, even when those actions were strategically sound. Vrel's mandibles hung open. They built a test to find their opposites. Correct, the machine said. Every species I tested showed mercy for a reason. The Crystalline Collective showed mercy because their religion demanded it. The Vrax showed mercy to appear civilized. The Thorians showed mercy to maintain honor codes. All mercy with purpose. All compassion with strings attached. The machine's lights focused on Marcus. You showed mercy because someone was bleeding. You made the wrong strategic choice because making the right one would haunt you. You rejected optimal outcomes because they required you to become something you couldn't live with being. You are inefficient, emotional, guided by feelings over facts. You're really selling it, Marcus muttered. You are exactly what the Caliph hoped to find. The chamber erupted in shocked noises from multiple species. The test result is as follows, the machine announced formally. The human species is deemed passable for guardianship of the galactic community. This is the highest rating I am programmed to give. Guardianship? Marcus stood up. Oh, hell no, I have a delivery route. The Caliph left detailed instructions. The machine continued, ignoring him. The species that passes the test will inherit their responsibility to mediate galactic conflicts, provide ethical guidance, and serve as a moral compass for civilizations that struggle with compassion-based reasoning. We struggle with it too, Marcus protested. Have you seen our history? You literally just roasted us for 3 minutes straight. Yes, but you struggle while knowing you should do better. That awareness is what the Caliph lacked. That is what makes you qualified. Varel slowly turned to face the other assembled aliens. The humans. They're giving guardianship to the humans, the species that still has active wars on their home planet, the species that invented something called spam mail, the species that made it past the compassion protocol, Tinwick finished quietly. The only species in 10,000 years. But he's a cargo hauler, someone shouted. Exactly. Tinwick's tentacles waved excitedly. They didn't send their best warrior or their greatest philosopher. They sent someone who delivers refrigeration units. And he passed, which means any human might have passed. Marcus raised his hand. Can I just say this is a terrible idea? Like genuinely awful? We're not qualified to run a planet, let alone provide guidance to a galaxy. The Caliph anticipated this response, the machine said. They included a note in their programming specifically about self-doubt. Quote, any species arrogant enough to believe they deserve power is exactly the species that should never have it. That's actually pretty wise, Marcus admitted. You may refuse the role, the machine said. However, if you do, I will continue testing until another species passes. Given the current rate of success, this will likely take another 10,000 years and result in 47 more extinct civilizations. Oh, that's just playing dirty. I am stating facts, not manipulating outcomes. Marcus looked up at the observation deck where dozens of alien faces stared back at him, some hopeful, some terrified, all waiting for his answer. Can I phone home first? He asked. Because I feel like this is a decision that should involve more than just the guy who was supposed to deliver coolant today. 3 days later, Marcus found himself in the largest diplomatic chamber he'd ever seen, which was saying something because he'd accidentally walked into quite a few diplomatic chambers in his career, usually while looking for a bathroom. Representatives from 43 species filled the space. Earth had sent an actual delegation this time, headed by Ambassador Patricia Chen, who looked like she was about 2 seconds away from either laughing or screaming. Maybe both. So let me get this straight, Ambassador Chen said, her eye twitching slightly. You, Marcus Webb, cargo hauler, passed the universe's deadliest test by being nice to holograms. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds stupid, Marcus said. It is stupid. You understand this is insane? You understand that every government on Earth is currently losing their minds? Do you know how many urgent messages I have from the president, from every president, from people claiming to be president of things that aren't even countries? In my defense, I thought I was delivering coolant. Chen took a deep breath. Then another one. Then possibly a third. Okay, we're going to figure this out. The death machine says humanity has to serve as galactic guardians. What does that actually mean? Captain Varel stepped forward, looking like he'd aged several years in 3 days. It means humans will mediate in conflicts where emotional understanding is required, provide guidance on ethical matters, serve on a council that reviews civilization-ending weapons and policies. We already have the UN for that, someone from the Earth delegation said. It doesn't work great. Yes, but now you have the backing of a 10,000-year-old doomsday machine, Varel said flatly. It's amazing what that does for enforcement. Professor Tinwick unfurled a data pad the size of a surfboard. I've prepared a comprehensive guide for human integration into the galactic ethical framework. It's only 4,000 pages. I had to really summarize. 4,000. Chen stopped herself. You know what? Fine. Fine. This is fine. Humanity becomes the galaxy's moral compass because Marcus helped some fake injured aliens. This is a normal Tuesday. This is definitely not the weirdest thing that's happened in my career. Is it in the top 5? Marcus asked. It's number 1 with a bullet, Webb. The crystalline representative chimed in, her voice like very judgmental wind chimes. We want it noted for the record that we object to this decision. Humans are barely spacefaring. They still have poverty on their home world. They elected several objectively terrible leaders in recent cycles. Noted and ignored, Chen said cheerfully. We passed the test. You didn't. That's remarkably petty for a new galactic guardian. Oh, we're going to be terrible at this job, Chen agreed. But apparently, that's what qualifies us. Marcus had been trying to stay out of the political discussions, but he raised his hand now. Can I ask a question? The entire chamber turned to look at him. What happened to the Kalith? If they were so powerful, where did they go? The death machine's holographic interface materialized in the center of the room. The Kalith Empire destroyed itself approximately 7,000 years ago. Internal conflicts, philosophical schisms, wars over the nature of consciousness and the value of mercy. Ironic, perhaps, that their lack of innate compassion led them to annihilate each other while debating whether compassion mattered. The room fell silent. They left me behind, the machine continued, with the hope that someone would eventually evolve who didn't have to think so hard about being kind, who would choose mercy not because philosophy demanded it, but because the alternative felt wrong in their bones. That's really sad, Marcus said. Yes, the machine agreed. The Kalith would not have said that. They would have analyzed the strategic implications of their extinction. You simply feel sad about it. That is why you passed? Ambassador Chen cleared her throat. Right. So? Guardianship? Do we have to move to a special planet? Is there an office? The Kalith left a station, Vrel said reluctantly. It's been mothballed for 7 millennia. Might need some work. And by some work, you mean? Everything is either broken, haunted by ancient AI, or both. Fantastic. Professor Tinwick's tentacles quivered with excitement. I've already begun drafting proposals for human ethical training programs. We'll need to establish standardized compassion metrics, emotional intelligence baselines, and… We're not standardizing compassion, Chen interrupted. That defeats the entire purpose. But how will we measure success? We won't, that's the point. The Kalith tried to logic their way into being good people and it didn't work. We're going to stumble through this making mistakes like we always do, and hopefully feel bad enough about those mistakes to do better next time. That's a terrible plan, the crystalline representative said. Got a better one? Chen challenged. Silence. That's what I thought. Okay, people. Humanity is officially in charge of being the galaxy's conscience. We're going to screw this up repeatedly. We're going to make calls that seem wrong in hindsight. We're going to have to mediate between species whose names we can't pronounce about conflicts we don't fully understand. And we're going to do it anyway because apparently the alternative is everyone explodes. She turned to Marcus. Webb, you're officially promoted. Congratulations. You're humanity's first Guardian representative. I don't want to be. Neither do I, but here we are. You passed the test. You're the proof that humans can do this. So you get to help figure out what this actually means. Marcus looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at him with varying degrees of hope, skepticism, and terror. He thought about Emma, who'd been very excited when he'd video called to explain that Daddy had accidentally become important. She'd made him promise to get alien autographs. Fine, he said, but I'm still keeping my cargo route. I'm not giving up my ship. Deal? And someone else has to deliver the coolant. I never finished that job. We'll handle it, Vrel said wearily. And I want it noted in every official record that I think this is a bad idea and I said so from the beginning. Also noted. Marcus nodded. Okay then. Let's go be terrible at this together. 4 weeks later, Marcus was back in his cargo ship, heading home after his first official Guardian mediation. It had gone about as well as expected, which is to say it had been a disaster, but a disaster where nobody died, and two species agreed to stop shooting at each other for at least 6 months. Progress, kind of. His comm system beeped. Emma's face appeared on the screen, grinning with several missing teeth. "Dad, did you guard the galaxy today?" "I tried, sweetie. Mostly I confused a lot of people and drank too much coffee." "That's your job on Earth, too." "Fair point. Did you help anybody?" Marcus thought about the two species who'd been at war for 3 decades. Thought about the moment when he'd asked both sides a simple question. If your kids were going to grow up together as neighbors in 50 years, what would you want to be able to tell them about how this ended? It hadn't fixed everything, but it had made them stop long enough to think about something other than strategy. "Yeah," Marcus said. "I think maybe I did." "Good. Mom says you're going to be on TV tomorrow. The real TV, not just Earth TV." "Great, that's great. Love being on TV." Marcus rubbed his face. "Em, can I ask you something?" "Uh-huh." "If you could make people stop hurting each other, but it meant making really hard choices and sometimes getting it wrong, would you do it?" Emma thought about this with the seriousness only a 7-year-old could muster. "Would I feel bad if I didn't try?" "Probably. Then I'd do it. 'Cause that's what heroes do." Marcus smiled. "When did you get so smart?" "I was always smart, Dad. You just don't pay attention." Brutally accurate. "Okay, kiddo, I gotta go. There's apparently another species that needs someone to tell them that genocide is bad, which feels like something they should already know. But here we are. Love you, Dad." "Love you too, Em." The comm clicked off, and Marcus sat back in his pilot chair looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the death machine was probably analyzing his latest performance. Somewhere, Professor Tinwick was writing another 1,000-page report. Somewhere, Ambassador Chen was yelling at someone about protocol. And somewhere, maybe, the long-dead Kalith were either laughing or crying at what they'd set in motion by asking the galaxy to find a species dumb enough to care about strangers for no good reason. His comm system beeped again. It was Chen. "Webb, we've got a situation. 2 colony ships from different species both claim the same planet. It's getting heated. They're asking for a Guardian mediator." Marcus sighed. "What do they want the planet for?" "Both species say it's sacred to their religions. Different religions, same planet. You see the problem." "Can they share it?" "They say no." "What if I tell them they have to? Then you'd be making an executive decision that affects billions of beings based on your personal moral framework, which is exactly what the Kalith wanted, but also terrifying." Marcus thought about it. Thought about Emma's question. Thought about the Kalith who'd been too logical to understand that sometimes you just had to make a call and live with the consequences. "Set up the meeting," he said. "I'll figure something out." "You don't sound confident." "I'm not. But I am committed to feeling really bad about it if I screw up, which apparently counts for something." Chen laughed, which turned into something between a laugh and a sob. "We're really doing this. Humanity's in charge of galactic ethics. We can't even agree on pineapple on pizza." "Yeah, but we all agree that arguing about pineapple on pizza is better than blowing each other up over it. That's something." "That's the bar? That's our qualification?" "Apparently." Marcus checked his navigation. "Send me the coordinates. Let's go disappoint some people in a way they can live with." That's the worst inspirational slogan I've ever heard. Put it on a t-shirt. I'll wear it to the next council meeting. The comm clicked off. Marcus plotted his course, made himself another cup of terrible coffee, and headed toward whatever disaster awaited him. He wasn't the smartest human. He wasn't the bravest. He wasn't even particularly good at his original job. But he'd passed the test that 47 species had failed. Not because he was special, but because he was human, messy, emotional, guilt-ridden, and just barely competent enough to know when he was out of his depth, which, according to a 10,000-year-old alien doomsday machine, made him exactly qualified to help run the galaxy. His ship jumped to faster than light speed, and Marcus Webb, former cargo hauler and current Guardian representative, went off to save the universe one uncomfortable conversation at a time. Behind him, If anyone had been listening, they might have heard the death machine's final assessment echo through subspace. Species evaluation complete. Humanity, passable. Prognosis, chaotic. Survival probability, low. Compassion quotient, surprisingly adequate. The Caliph would have hated them. Therefore, they are perfect. And somewhere in the cosmos, maybe the ghosts of the ancient Caliph Empire were watching. Maybe they were horrified, maybe they were proud. Maybe they were just relieved that someone, finally,